This element, fluorine, on the table of elements that I brought here, it helps explain why this is the case. Fluorine is in the 7th column of the table of elements if you break it down to just the 8-column model without the transition metals here. Why that's important, and I'm not going to get too technical, but from a chemistry perspective, fluorine has 7 electron clouds in its outer orbital, so it's lacking 1 electron. It wants to steal electrons from other elements. So if it gets near anything else, including chemicals in your brain, normal healthy brain chemicals like serotonin, if it is unbound from the molecule that it's attached to in the pharmaceutical, such as the psychiatric drugs, it will start to ravage other chemicals in your brain and in your body. This is why fluoride kills insects and it's such an effective insecticide. This is why fluoride causes bone cancer when it's added to water as fluosilicic acid. Fluorine is represented in psychiatric drugs at the level of about 14% according to atomic mass. So if you would break out all the elements and weigh them, fluorine is about 14%. And yet it is one of the most wide-ranging reactive industrial chemicals in human civilization.
And they've known this for hundreds of years, and that's what Dr. Blaylock talks about. It also supercharges everything else they're putting in us.
Exactly.
It's the master chemical weapon supercharger.
Exactly. And your term supercharging segues us into vaccines because the CDC openly admits that at least 5 chemicals or elements are still being used in vaccines. And today we're going to talk about the aluminum that's still used in them, mercury is still used in them, MSG, yes, monosodium glutamate, a neurotoxin that you've had Dr. Blaylock.
Because it's an excitotoxin.
It's an excitotoxin. It is used in vaccines to, quote, supercharge the vaccine as an adjuvant.
Now, let's stop one place because, I mean, you talk a lot about iodine, and every medical doctor I talk to,
yes,
more and more are saying this is the key to everything. Notice in the same area of the table here, you've got iodine that your body needs, so they take that out of the food,
right, out
of the salt, what you actually need, to replace it with something that goes into the thyroid instead. I mean, they know exactly what they're doing, and when they try to make babies drink fluoride, they are literally trying to savage their brain.
You're very observant. You're exactly right on. If you move down a column of the table of elements, and this is considered the 7th orbital column, you have fluoride, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. These tend to interfere with each other or compete for absorption or attachment throughout human physiology. So when you're drinking fluoride, your body's not able to get the iodine that it needs in the right places, such as breast tissue, prostate tissue. This is one of the reasons why so many women have breast cancer today, because fluoride or even chlorine that they're getting from tap water, both of those are in tap water, are interfering with iodine absorption. So if you move down a column of the table of elements, you can actually discern a lot of interesting information. I think I would recommend Dr. Brownstein, David Brownstein.
We're getting him on next week. It's funny you said that.
Good. He is the best expert that I know of iodine. And he has studied it extensively, and he recommends that the level of iodine people should take is literally, if memory serves me correctly, 100 times to 1,000 times higher than what the government recommends, which is not surprising because the government wants everybody nutritionally depleted. But iodine, nascent iodine, in my opinion, I don't manufacture the product. This is a third-party opinion. Nascent iodine is one of the most miraculous life-saving supplements that our society needs, especially landlocked Americans, because we're not getting the seafood.
Well, that's why the Japanese live so much longer.
They tend to have much lower rates of breast cancer until they move to America. And there have been really good clinical studies on this. Once they move to America and start eating the American diet, they get the same rates of breast cancer as American women. So what's changed? Their foods, their diets. But at the same time, you got to be really careful about the sources of seaweed you're getting. Make sure you're getting good quality sources. This is a calcium fluoride rock, and the only reason it's safe and the only reason we're not dead right now being in the room with this element is because, you notice I said before that it is bound to the calcium, which is over here on the other side. Calcium has two electron clouds in its outer orbital shell. It binds with the fluoride. Calcium, things on that side of the table bind with things on this side of the table, essentially. It's a general term.
So it is good to take calcium to bind up that?
Well, it can, but it's better to take iodine to compete with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the nascent iodine is really the best way, but you should avoid fluoride, period. Avoidance is a lot of the strategy here of everything we talk about. But also notice right here in the middle of the table, you have zinc, cadmium, and mercury. These are all in the same column. Mercury is highly toxic, highly neurotoxic. Cadmium is a highly toxic element, a heavy metal that's now being found in many foods, including some of the tests we're doing are showing it in brown rice, including organic brown rice is having a variety of levels of cadmium. But zinc is a nutritive element. So sometimes in these tables, you see something you need, like zinc, on top of something you don't need, like cadmium. So if you take more zinc, guess what? You're helping to block the absorption of cadmium and the absorption.
So it's not just important to take this stuff because you need it. You need to block the other stuff.
Defensive eating. This is something that I'm really hot on right now. Defensive eating. If you go out and you eat shrimp in a restaurant, most shrimp will have some level of mercury in it. But you can take activated charcoal capsules that will absorb the mercury from the shrimp. So you can actually go out and you can have a meal that you enjoy. I enjoy eating seafood too, you know, but I take chlorella and I take activated charcoal, and I know that I'm not absorbing the mercury in the shrimp. It's defensive eating, just like defensive driving. We have lead here, we have cadmium, we have mercury, we have aluminum, which at very high levels can also alter brain physiology. This is the reason, one of my main theories right now of what's causing the insanity in our world.
No, it's like the Romans.
Yes.
The Romans, of course, lined their clay pots with lead.
And the aqueducts.
And that was towards the middle and the end. Their decline began when that happened.
Absolutely.
They were stark raving mad, and lead makes you violent.
Lead makes you crazy. It makes you violent. Cadmium destroys kidney function. It gives you heart disease. You look at all of these elements. Mercury makes you crazy. Mercury gives you a lobotomy.
But CBS said it improves their brain, children.
And they're victims of mercury, too. See, that's the other thing, and you've said this before, the reframing of all of this. The people that we are trying to save in the Matrix are also victims of the Matrix. So we have to be careful, too, and I realize this, too. Sometimes I might go too far and attack victims of the system. You know, sometimes I call people morons if they're scientists who don't get all this. And sometimes I have to step back from that and realize they're victims, too. They've been brain damaged.
Well, remember before you were awake, you didn't have any of the pieces, so none of it made sense. Once you start getting a few pieces, then it accelerates.
Yeah.
But we were once as dumb as dirt.
Absolutely. I was raised on a standard American diet. I took antibiotics. I ate, you know, all these heavy metals at one time. And by the way, this takes a very concerted effort to get these out of your system. Cadmium has a 27-year half-life in the body. Lead stays in your bones. You got a lot of elderly women who are now recycling bone mass. They're losing bone mass. Their bone mass is being depleted and going into the
That's why they're going crazy.
They're going crazy because the lead is coming out of their bones now for the first time in their lives. The lead is going from the bones into the blood. Now the lead in the blood gets into the brain, makes them crazy. That's
where you get the syndrome of mean old women.
This is exactly where it comes from. And also pregnant women out there need to understand that your first child becomes really the dumping ground for a lot of the toxicity that your body has stored up. So if you're not cleaning your body and getting rid of all these elements and heavy metals and toxic chemicals, your first child is usually the most messed up because of this.
That's right.
And then the second child comes.
That's like people exposed to Agent Orange. The first kid was always
absolutely
just devastated, and then they got better as you went.
Because the wisdom of the body, Alex, is amazing. Mother Nature is amazing. The woman, the mother, her body is trying to get rid of this stuff for any way possible, through the skin, through respiration, through feces, through urination, but also by dumping it into the fetus. And this is something that modern scientists and modern doctors just completely deny. They're living in total delusion world. But again, we are living in a system right now, Alex, where it's already too late for grandchildren of today's pregnant women. It's already too late. They're already damaged.
That's right. That's right. By third generation, yes, in just the GMO studies of the rats, they're done. So basically, that's why they have to get world tyranny in, because another 20 years, you're going to have 80% of people dying.
If you cleaned up vaccines today and took all the mercury out and all the formaldehyde out, which is another neurotoxin I didn't even mention, if you took all that out today, you would still have children damaged from vaccines for 2 or 3 more generations from now. This is a sobering thought, and it's absolutely true.
Let's go into why we originally got you here.
Right.
10 outrageous but true facts about vaccines the CDC and the vaccine industry doesn't want you to know about.
So, yeah, this is an article that I did that really ruffled a lot of feathers in the vaccine, the pro-vaccine, movement, not a movement, but corporate science whores.
The eugenics movement.
Yeah, the eugenics movement. But people need to know the real facts about vaccines, and they are. The CDC, on their website, they still openly admit that vaccines contain these elements.
And will kill you, and can kill you.
And can kill you. There was a big story that just came out recently about one of these big pharmacies that has a vaccine. It's called a high-dose flu shot for senior citizens. And the high-dose flu shot on their website, I'm not going to mention their name, but on their website, they say it has little to no side effects. But if you actually look at the insert that's posted by the FDA, it says, wait a minute, this could kill you. This could cause neurological
Guillain-Barré and epilepsy.
It's all mentioned in there, yes. And 23 senior citizens died within a couple of months after taking the vaccine. But they said, well, this isn't related.
Why not just euthanize them?
I think this is a soft euthanization strategy, clearly. But it's also a lobotomization strategy. Now, getting back to the list, though, it's important. Vaccines are an important part of population control in the sense of making sure people don't get too intelligent. If you can lobotomize or deactivate a portion of their brain, and I know you've covered this, through vaccines, then you can prevent people from asking questions. Now, asking questions is the basis of liberty. If you stop people from asking questions, you stop liberty.
It's the essence of evil.
Yeah, right. So these metals that are in vaccines, that are added to vaccines on purpose.
Nutrients.
Right. To make the vaccines have a stronger reaction, these are so toxic that they were, of course, researched by Nazi scientists. And by the way, just as a side note, the sodium fluoride, because we talk about fluorine, sodium fluoride is the agent that the British press was reporting when they said the UK government authorized the sale of nerve gas chemicals to Syria. If you look at the reports, those nerve gas chemicals were sodium fluoride. So sodium fluoride is the basis of nerve gas. And
you mean vitamin gas?
Yeah, right. So if you take sodium fluoride and through chemistry you can break apart the elements, you can get fluorine, and then you can use fluorine to make deadly nerve gas. So in essence, the British press was admitting that the same chemical that's put into the Austin water supply is called a chemical weapons ingredient that was sold to Syria with great alarm. So just so that everybody knows, this is the same thing we're talking about here. You're drinking raw materials for chemical weapons. But not only is this poisoning our children, our parents are being denied due process in courts because the so-called secret vaccine court is higher than the Supreme Court in the United States, according to the Supreme Court's own decision.
It's the eugenics court.
The eugenics court. So there's no due process. There's no...
Just like family courts were set up 100 years ago for eugenics. That's how they sterilize people. This is a whole eugenics world. By the way, I know there's some evidence that you can get acquired immunity through vaccines. It's a 500-year-old technology going back to smallpox. But then there's all the evidence that it gives you other immune system problems, you name it. It's but it's these companies. Exactly. Exactly. People say, "Oh, you don't believe in science." These companies are a bunch of eugenicists.
Well, I mean, if they could have just the virus that they're trying to give you immunity to, just that one virus and not the 50 other hidden viruses that are in the vaccine, and if they take the mercury out and they take these other things out, I would not necessarily, I couldn't be as animated against it.
It needs to be more studied. There shouldn't be some secret court.
Safe.
Well, exactly. But plus, the elites all get special vaccines no one else can get.
Clean vaccines.
Yeah, they call them clean vaccines.
Right. But I want those. The masses get mercury vaccines, and that's on purpose. I went to CVS, and I asked to buy a vial of the flu shot. I said, I want to buy the vaccine. They said, great. Just go back to the pharmacy. I said, no, I want to buy a vial of the vaccine. They said, you can't buy that. I said, why? They said, that's a controlled substance. So wait a minute.
They don't want you putting it under an electron microscope.
Exactly. You can buy an injection of it, but you can't buy the vial because it's so dangerous that it's controlled? Really?
Mike, get into the Whole Foods investigation.
Okay, so the group called Organic Spies had released a big video last year where they showed Whole Foods employees on camera saying that Whole Foods did not sell any GMOs at all. And that was big news. It was false information because Whole Foods sells all kinds of GMOs. And it forced Whole Foods into a position where they had to actually issue public relations statements and admit, yeah, we sell lots of GMOs. We don't even know how many GMOs we sell. That's one of their quotes because it's everywhere. And then they announced that they're going to have GMO labeling requirements by 2018. But in that, they denied that they had trained their employees to lie about GMOs. That was their denial. Well, today, Organic Spies has issued a new video that we posted because YouTube will censor it if you post it on YouTube. So we posted it over on Natural News. This video features a woman who describes herself as a former Whole Foods employee. And I've seen documentation firsthand that seems to confirm that. I did some due diligence with this witness. And she is saying that she was trained, that the actual training of new employees at Whole Foods involved them being taught that Whole Foods sells no GMOs whatsoever.
You mean whole paycheck?
Whole paycheck, right. In addition to that, Organic Spies alleges that Whole Foods is a, quote, organic fraud machine because they have been certified as a, quote, certified organic grocer by CCOF. And this is misleading people, they say, into thinking that everything the store sells is organic.
Well, they have it painted on the side of some of the stores that everything is organic.
Or nothing artificial.
Yeah.
The big slogan, I think. And that's a false slogan as well, because GMOs are, by definition, artificial. So Whole Foods is, once again, appears to be caught in quite some big deceptions here. Now,
and it's almost worse than the guys that openly push GMO because they're acting like they're not.
Well, exactly. A lot of people go to Whole Foods and they think that everything Whole Foods sells, even at the buffet, they have a nice salad bar, that looks very beautiful. But many of the ingredients in their salad bar are GMO and not organic. So Whole Foods store sells a lot of foods grown with pesticides, herbicides, genetically modified ingredients, and yet they can mislead people into thinking that everything they sell is pure and pristine. And
this is the only way the establishment can win, because if we vote with our dollars and only buy organic and quality stuff, it will convert the market,
right,
take over, and heal us. But if they can then camouflage it, then they win,
yeah,
and then it's a double ripoff.
Right, and Whole Foods is really masterful at using what I call fuzzy language to try to create this warm and fuzzy feeling, but then what they're actually saying doesn't stand up. So we actually have, I think we have a video segment here that has this witness, this former Whole Foods employee testifying on camera what happened. If you've got that.
Yeah, let's roll that clip.
First or second day, all the team members are given a general information guide, and it's called the Gig Book, and it's kind of like a guide for the team members if they have any questions. When we first started, we had it's called a day 1 and a day 2, and they teach us about the core values of Whole Foods Market, the core values of nothing artificial, everything's natural. I think it's in their advertising too, that nothing ever artificial. When I first started at Whole Foods, I didn't know what a GMO was. I had no idea what it was. They taught us what it was and how Whole Foods Market did not carry GMOs.
There you go. That's
so
it.
If a customer would have came up to me.
They taught us what it was, and they taught us that Whole Foods Market did not carry.
And then she goes on, if a customer came over, we were telling them they didn't.
Exactly. So this was
we need to get somebody to go get a job there and record it all.
They're not doing it anymore, I don't think. This stopped in 2012, I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm glad Whole Foods exists. I shop there from time to time as well. But I also know how to look for the difference between GMO and non-GMO, and a lot of people don't. So many people can be easily deceived if these claims like certified organic grocer, a big sign on the wall with a USDA symbol.
Well, my point is then they ought to have sections, and I know they kind of do, where this side of the store really is right, and this side isn't. But they don't. Right. They want to overcharge you because if they get non-GMO stuff, they have to pay more for it, but they can get the GMO, non-organic, kind of fool you mixing it together.
Right.
It's about ripping you off.
It's the fuzzy language again. They use a lot of fuzzy language. They say they have a sign that says something like, quality matters. Every product in our store is carefully considered.
And selected.
Carefully selected or evaluated. Well, the same could be said for a porn shop. I mean, that doesn't mean
we carefully select the gun we shoot you in the head with.
I mean, that claim, anybody can make that claim, you know, it doesn't mean anything. A pesticide retailer could say, we carefully evaluate all our pesticides. That doesn't mean anything. This is fuzzy language. There are other stores that say, we don't sell produce grown with pesticides, like Natural Grocers, I think, is one of them. And that's the kind of claim that we like to see. We like to see, if I walk in the door, everything there, man, every produce, every vegetable, every fruit is organic. And then I don't have to think about it. I want to have that level of trust in a retailer so I can walk in and just shop and don't have to evaluate everything like a lab technician, you know?
And by the way, Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton's InfoWars investigation last year really spurred a lot. Your investigation did, because you have high-level sources. We're going to the calls momentarily. It's really shaken them up, and that's good. It shows that real alternative media has an effect.
Organic spies is playing a very important role in society, just like InfoWars and Natural News. We are the organizations that force corporations to behave with the ethics that they should behave with on their own, but often do not.
Yeah, but how does YouTube and Whole Foods censor that when you're allowed to talk to a former employee?
YouTube censorship is highly selective and completely done without merit. They censor, you know, they get a letter from a corporation to take something down that they don't like, and they take it down. You know, YouTube is a vehicle of mass censorship.
And it's getting worse.
It's getting worse. And what's really worrisome is that they're censoring information that is in the public interest. So the reports that you put out, that I put out, that Organic Spies just did, this is in the public interest to know this. This is what the First Amendment is based on, is the public has a right to know.
Yeah, these YouTube employees, when they get an order and they go look at something and it's a thing about Whole Foods lying about stuff being organic, I mean, we should get awards for these reports.
Absolutely.
Not censored.
Yes. No.
I mean, if Whole Foods thinks we're lying, sue us. That's what you've got to do to take something down. Prove it in court. Come on.
Right, and they can't, because we actually conduct a lot of due diligence, just like your reporters do. We actually do more research. When I say we, I mean the alternative new media, like your organization of mine. We do more research than the mainstream media by far, orders of magnitude more. They just copy and paste. They take a White House press release, copy, paste it, put their name on it, boom, it's out there in the press. We do original research. We do due diligence. We check our facts. We do laboratory studies. We do hidden camera interviews. History, by the way, will prove us correct. History will show that the mass chemical holocaust of our children and our population, and I'm not talking about just vaccines, but even the things in the food, the medicine, the synthetic chemicals, that was an era of destruction where humanity very nearly destroyed itself. And I'm hoping humanity survives this so that we can write the history books.
You're right.